Hello and welcome to another episode of Hair Bear Reads Reddit. And if you found your way to my cozy little corner of the internet, and you like a story or two, sit back and relax. Have a listen, have a laugh, take your shoes off, and set a spell. So it's been a little while since we've done any Reddit readings. I just thought I'd grab a mixed bag off the top of the newest list, and we'll get right into it. Our first one is, am I the a-hole for asking my coworker to not eat her cultural food in the lunchroom? Break room, whatever. And it's posted by Imaginary Chemical 8. And OP says, I know how the title sounds, and I'm sure as you begin reading this post, it'll sound worse, but please hear me out. Now, posts rarely start off that way and end up being good, and this one sounds more ominous than usual, so, all right, here we go. I, 25 female, have a wonderful coworker, 54 female, who I get along really well with. This coworker is Nepalese, and I am a white woman. In the past, she's been kind enough to bring in different food from her culture for us all to try. I have zero problem with her or anyone else bringing in food from their culture, and I've really enjoyed some of the dishes and sweets she's brought, especially the, I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, barfi? That doesn't sound good, but we'll go with that. She brought in earlier this year from Diwali, another pronunciation I'm sure I butchered. My workplace has lots of different cultures, and I usually don't care what anyone else brings to lunch, at least until this situation. So far, so good. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I noticed a horrible smell in the break room that was incredibly strong. It was kind of like you farted into a sweaty sock and stuck it to your face. Vivid. It was honestly inescapable within the room, even after I changed the rubbish bin. I didn't know what it was, but ended up going outside and eating in my car. I figured it was just a one-off, but for every few days, I'd smell it again. I genuinely had no idea where it was coming from. During this time, I just ate outside the building or in my car. However, one day I walked in and it was somehow even stronger. This day happened to be the day I had the same break as Jane. Okay, this is the first time we've heard her name, I suppose. I presume this is to be the Nepalese coworker, 54 female. I noticed she was eating a fruit and realized that's where the smell was coming from. I asked what she was eating, and she told me it was called durian, I think that's how it's spelled, and she only recently found a good market for them. I said I was glad she was enjoying it, but mentioned the smell was quite overpowering and left the room smelling afterwards. I asked her if she wouldn't mind eating it at home or going outside, as the smell really lingers in the staff room. She said she never really noticed the smell, but would do her best to do so. She seemed a bit annoyed, but hasn't brought it into the break room since. I was talking with a friend about this, also white, and she said I was behaving in a racist way towards my coworker, and it was wrong to police her cultural food. I argued that it wasn't a cultural thing, and I'd have done the same thing if someone was microwaving fish or another smelly food. That's exactly what I was thinking. This has caused a debate between us about if what I did was offensive, and while I do still think I was right, I am beginning to question if I could be viewed as in the wrong. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole? My first take on this is that it just seems like somebody virtue signaling, and I was wondering what people would say in the comments, but most of the comments here are just talking about how everybody knows that that fruit smells badly. The top comment is from Facetious Tomato and says, not the a-hole because it's durian. Everyone everywhere who eats durian knows it smells like ass. Her feigning innocence is infuriating. This cultural food is banned on public transit in some Southeast Asian countries because the smell is very well known. It literally famously smells awful. It's like sturstrumming, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly either, the fish, which famously smells so bad it makes people barf and isn't supposed to be even opened indoors. There's a lot of other comments questioning whether this post is even genuine because it's so well known that that particular fruit smells badly. At any rate, the OP has been voted by Reddit in general as not the a-hole. I would give OP my personal rating of 0 out of 10. The person eating the fruit, I just give 1 out of 10, just because if it's that well known that it smells badly and they're doing it anyway, that's a little dickish. And the person who brought it up, 3 out of 10. Yeah, that's my ruling. Yeah. No big jerks here, just a bunch of office drama. Anyway, on to the next one. This one is from one of my favorite subreddits, r/traumatize them back, posted by Bay214, and it's titled, "Woman told me I was a terrible daughter for not calling my mom on Mother's Day, so I told her why." Oh goodness. For a few years, I worked at a dispensary and loved almost all of my customers. Obviously, not all of them were great, and there was one woman specifically that always got under my skin. Rachel. For context, my mother died when she was 46 and I was 19, and she was my best friend. Almost 10 years later, I still miss her every minute of every day, and holidays are hard for me and my family. I already kind of got a feel which way this one's going. For the last 10 years, there have been 3 holidays that I always request off work: Mother's Day, her birthday, and Christmas. Last Mother's Day, I was unable to take Mother's Day off because there were only 2 people working at that store, and my manager wanted to spend Mother's Day with her mom, and of course I let her. So Rachel and her partner come in that day, and she asked if I've called my mom yet. I said no and tried to leave it at that, but she would not drop it and instead started talking about how terrible of a daughter I am for not calling her, and she must be so disappointed in me. Oh boy. So at this point, I'm trying my best not to cry. I'm not confrontational and I have a hard time standing up for myself. But after a few minutes, I finally looked her dead in the face, more serious than I've ever been before, and said, "I'd love to call my mom, but she's dead." All color left her face, and both her and her partner quickly made their purchase and left as fast as they could, and I never saw them again. Good riddance. So a lot of people talk about the golden rule being treat others as you would like yourself to be treated. I personally think this is a little self-centric and think the golden rule simply is mind your own business. Don't get up into people's lives when you have no idea what their life is about. And down in the comments, Background Camp 7712 seems to agree with me. And they say, "I can forgive a casual shitty question like the customer's first one. A lot of people were raised in that kind of small talk environment, and it's a comfort zone for them to make some inane chatter with strangers. I hate it. It causes me anxiety, but I get it." The part where the customer lost all sympathy/understanding for me was the follow-up about being a terrible daughter. Seriously, lady? Maybe your mouth just babbled some bland comment about the holiday of the moment without considering that not everyone is as fortunate as you. Okay, so that makes you clueless and thoughtless, but not necessarily horrible. But the no should have been at least enough to trigger some kind of brain reaction to shut the mouth at that point. The absolute gall to criticize a stranger for something that they, A, have no clue about, and B, is none of their goddamn business to begin with. I hope the woman was traumatized enough to make her more aware of what's coming out of her mouth. On point. I couldn't have said it better myself. Alright, and our last one for today is from Best of Redditor Updates, which is another one of my favorites because they tend to be more well-rounded, having been updated, and get more of a full story, which, given that I have a narrative frame of mind, makes it more satisfying for me anyways. So this one is marked as concluded, which bodes well. The OP also notes that they are not the OOP, which in my mind always looks like they say oop and makes me chuckle. The OOP is you locked rooms throwaway, which also indicates that this guy might know he was in the wrong for saying this or didn't want someone to know. There's also a trigger warning that's been redacted. So we don't know what the trigger warnings are. I'm reading this cold, so we're in this together. So buckle up. So the title is My 31 Male Girlfriend, 29 Female, has a locked room in her house. I don't know what's in it. Now, before we get into it all, my initial reaction, which I don't know if any of you think the same thing, is, boyfriend, girlfriend, how long they've been together. Someone has a locked room in their house. Maybe mind your business. Golden rule might apply here. Let's continue on and see if that bears out. So the post goes on. My girlfriend Amy and I have been together for 5 years. Okay, that's quite a long time. And we are planning on moving in together into her home when my lease is up in 2 months. Our relationship is great. We have arguments, but not often, I presume that's meant to mean, and we always resolve them like rational people. Amy owns a house, and she bought it 10 years ago. The city we live in was depressed for a while. Picture Detroit, but not, where if you were so inclined, you could buy a big house in a bad neighborhood for a song and dance and then fix it up and hope the neighborhood would come around, which luckily is what happened to her. It's a big old Victorian house with 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. What a monster. Usually we hung out at my apartment since it was near her work and I don't have a car to get out to her place, but some weekends here and there I would spend the night. When my job went remove 5 months ago, what's with the way this guy words stuff? I started spending a lot more time at her place. I presume he meant he lost his job, but anyways. It wasn't until after a month I realized the one room upstairs has a latch with a padlock on it. I thought it was really weird that it was padlocked, come on man, and not just a door lock. I mentioned it to her and she said, "Yeah, I don't really go in that room or use it." What? I mean, I get that it's a big home and she lived in it alone for a long time, so she didn't need the space, but to padlock it like that? I asked her what was in it and she shrugged and said, "Stuff." Like it was no big deal. I asked if we could open it since maybe that would be a good space for my home office, and she said no. Now I'm really curious, and it's actually sort of eating away at me. I don't care what is in the room. I just honestly don't get why it's padlocked shut. That's weird, right? Am I being unreasonable since I'm moving in? I understand the right to privacy, and I wouldn't snoop and couldn't if I wanted to. Sure you wouldn't. You couldn't even tell from the outside since it's on the 2nd floor. I've been sort of paying attention now if she goes in there or not, and I don't think she ever does. I feel like since I'm moving in, I have a right to know, but do I? I don't want to, quote unquote, make her open it. I don't want to know what that means. But she's so nonchalant about it, and changes the subject that my mind keeps running away with me about what could be in there. I'm just wondering what other people think, what I should do, and if I'm being unreasonable wanting to see/know what is in this padlocked room, or if I don't have a right to. Our relationship is amazing and perfect except for this one really weird issue. TLDR, moving in with the girlfriend, come on man. Moving in with the girlfriend who has a padlocked shut room. She never goes in, and she won't open it. My first thought when reading this was, perhaps it's just an old house. That room might have been particularly dangerous. Maybe the floor was bad. She padlocked it to make sure nobody goes in there. You know, liability is a thing. But she would say that if that was the case. My second thought is somebody was reading Sherlock Holmes and decided to get into creative writing. But this is an updated one, and there is an update, and there's some comments in between, so let's read the comments first. I like this list of possibilities from Library Lulu and Red Rose Beetle. 1. 4 children from her previous marriage that she doesn't want you to know about. 2. Her mother's mummified body. 3. She's secretly a slob, and that's where she throws all the unwashed dishes and hoarded cat poop. 4. 23 cats, no more, no less, and a lot of cat poop. 5. All of her previous boyfriends and 2 ex-husbands who mysteriously disappeared. 6. Her collection of fingers. They no longer fing. 7. A horse. That's why you hear those noises in the night, the sound of distant nickering. 8. Marijuana farm. 9. Dracula. 10. Satanic altar. 11. BDSM dungeon. That's more likely than you think. I'm an appliance tech. I have stories. 12. Trafficked people. 13. Portal to another dimension. 14. The TARDIS, which is essentially a portal to another dimension. Attack Symmetra says, while I know you two are big on privacy, you have to come back with an update on what's in that room. We need to know. Unless you end up getting murdered by the clown dolls from a burned down hospital, children's hospital that are locked inside. AOP said, oh God, I didn't even consider clowns. That wasn't on the list either, was it? I myself, I'm a little bit torn as to whether OP really has the right to know what's in the room. Yeah, he's moving in, but it's still not his house. On the other hand, if there's something in there that's not nefarious, that there's just something that she doesn't want him to know about, just kind of offhandedly saying, oh, it's just stuff, never mind, is the worst way to go about it. Communication's key, people. If there's something she doesn't want him to know or see, just say, listen, it's something I'm really uncomfortable about. If just respect my wishes. I don't want that door open just now. Perhaps sometime we'll talk about it. Problem solved. And if that doesn't solve the problem, then there's bigger problems than a locked door and with something in it. But we do have an update, and we'll get to that now, eventually, sometime. Here it is. The OOP says, hello Reddit, I promised an update to my prior post in this sub. Sorry for no link, I'm on mobile, not sure how to link it, blah 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 blah. I had a long talk with my girlfriend when she got home from work in the morning. Dad talking, communication, good man. About the locked room. She tried to blow it off a few times and get out of the conversation until I told her I couldn't move in until she told me what was in the room and I saw it for myself. I told her I didn't care what was in there. If you don't care what's in there, then it shouldn't be an issue, but never mind. After posting here, I was more and more convinced that it was probably guns or something related to her work in law enforcement. She didn't say she was in law enforcement, no wonder, as that really did make a lot of sense. Eventually, she just broke down sobbing. Big, giant, ugly sobs like I have never seen before. It was pretty shocking. She's not really a crier. It took a good 15 minutes before she could even start forming words that I could understand between giant sobs. It was absolutely heartbreaking to see, and I knew as soon as she started crying that it wasn't a room full of guns or work stuff. Actually, the room is empty. There's nothing in there. Someone had surmised in the comments of the other post that maybe there was some trauma. I forgot who it was, but unfortunately they were correct. She was basically a kid at 19 when she bought the house. Like I said, bad neighborhood, fixer-upper, etc. And it was dirt cheap due to the city she lived in and those other factors. She had always been smart with money, so she had a big down payment and was planning on taking the rest of her savings to fix it up. I don't want to get into specific details, as it is pretty gruesome and also privacy. But in her third week living there, she had a home invasion while she was home in that room, and she was assaulted. She had no money to move, no family around, so she stayed in the home after buying a security system and locking the door up and planning to just never unlock it, basically never go in that room again. So there you have it. I seriously was not expecting that at all, and it has been a long week for her and I feel terrible I made her tell me, but she says she's glad I know now. She never told me before because she didn't want to, which I totally respect. Also, that is when she decided to start a career in law enforcement to help other people. FYI, I have let actually seen in the room, and now I don't feel I ever need to. I presume he means that he's been allowed to look in the room, but he doesn't need to. DLDR, girlfriend has locked room in her house. Turns out to be nothing more than bad memories. Yeah, that room did have something in it, a lot of bad memories. I feel as though this probably ended up being a healthy way for her to work through that trauma, because this is something that we do with our minds. When something bad happens, to protect ourselves, we lock it away. We don't want to deal with it, and sometimes we're forced to. When things change in our lives and things shift and we're forced to face those memories we've locked away. So this took a bit of a dark turn, but I think the light around the silver lining around the cloud here is that I think the girlfriend actually got a little bit more closure and perhaps was a little bit better equipped to process the trauma that she went through. So well done all around, really. A couple good points here in the comments. I hope Amy got therapy, which, yes, I agree with. And a response to that, who says, Istera says that, and I hope they both move house. Staying in that house can't be good long term. That room is always going to be a memory of her trauma, no matter how lovely the rest of the house is, which is also true. So there's nothing really bad that happened in the house to affect resale. So that seemed to be the plan all along, was to flip the house, which, yeah, the sooner the better, for sure. With the two of them working on it, maybe it would step up that time scale. But that's all I have for you for today. And if any of these stories made you smile, made you think, or empathize, then we've done well. And as always, if you liked any of these stories, make sure to slap upon the like and subscribe button. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, be good, and bear up.